You don't have to look any further. Get online and you'll get any property.
It's all about joinery. How best do you give a tree a very good second life?
Because there's already development happening around.
Say, for example, carpets, thick, luxurious carpet, and you say, I've got to have a carpet wall-to-wall in my house, but we're a hot country.
Welcome to the Property Show, where we make real estate sense.
You're watching Morning at NTV.
Comedy store. Tumira omusomesa ali ngene suti ekulumu yagala gye makingira mu bibuuzo.
Ekirwano kikutte. Okaba ali bayambe kashumba n'atuuka mu alikeera n'etteeku mmeza n'apima poloti.
You have dealt with my money. Something bigger than a cricket has entered its hall.
With Alex Muhanji, the only time in Muchiga. Do not miss his Chibeda Chakabi Paitao Mama.
Amannya nze Sozi Wilfred, driver wa taxi. Olunaku lumu nali nvuga mmotoka nga nva mu nnyendo ne neekanga emmotoka yali eyisa mu katonga okukakkana n'entomera naye abantu bonna baafa. Nze ekyannyamba okuwona kubanga nali nsibye olukoba era nsaba abantu bonna buli atuula mu mmotoka asibenga olukoba baasinga terwali lukoba kisandiwonye na mwenna oba oli mu maayikoba mmotoka kisiba olukoba n'ebinnya bino ebiri mu kibuga oluusi kiyinza okukuba era n'oyisibwa bubi nnyo ne kikuviiramu obulemu. N'olwekyo nsaba abagoba b'ebidduka bonna n'abatambuze bonna tweddeko tusibe seat belt n'okuyisa nga twegendereza tutaase obulamu.
This message was brought to you by Viva Energy and NTV Uganda. Your Saturdays just got better. Why go to the Chibanda when you can watch your favorite team? In the comfort of your living room, catch the English Premier League games live on NTV every Saturday at 5 p.m. Avoid the hassle of boss, Tosa Sudempia, Fuluma. Have enough room to celebrate your goal. NTV, turning on your world.
What would you define fashion as? It's not something you simply wear, nor is it anything you envision it to be.
Honestly, I feel like when I look at the bottom of this outfit, the skirt, it reminds me of the office trash can.
It's body perfection. It's the art that defines who you are.
These kind of wedding gowns tell so much about someone's personality. I would wear something like this, to be honest.
You're watching Morning at NTV.
Hi, good morning. Welcome back to Morning at NTV. Thank you so much for choosing us and staying with us. My name is Malaki Vilaudera. We are on the hashtag Morning at NTV across all the social media platforms. Now today on Kickstarter, let's talk about trade, bilateral trade between Kenya and Uganda. And so over the past few days, there's this report that actually showed that Uganda is now exporting more to Kenya as opposed to what Kenya is exporting to Uganda. Great strides we're making right there as a country. And so in studios for the first time, I'm introducing to you His Excellency Kema Kilonzo, the High Commissioner of the Republic of Kenya to Uganda. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good morning, viewers.
Good morning. Congratulations. It's been 2 months now since you presented your letters of credence to His Excellency, the President
That's true.
of Uganda.
Yeah, and I'm really enjoying every bit of it.
Right?
Yes.
Thank you so much for that feedback. Great feedback right there. So let's talk about trade. And I remember when we were having this particular celebrations, of course, after you presented your letters of credence, you mentioned that your key area of focus during your tenure here will be trade. Where is that passion coming from?
Absolutely, because countries grow out of commerce. And if you look at Kenya and Uganda, our relationships are historical.
Right.
Uganda, let me start with Uganda and say that Uganda, for the last 6 months I've been here, 3 months I've been here, looking at how Uganda has grown exponentially. I'm really impressed. And I can say this without any fear of contradiction, that if Uganda continues the way it is moving, I see in the next 20 years, Uganda being one of the economic powerhouse in the Great Lakes region.
Brilliant.
Why am I saying this? Because look at agriculture. Right now, Uganda is doing very well when it comes to stuff like maize. It's doing very well if you look at coffee. It's doing very well when you look at sugar. Just the other day, I visited the Atiak Sugar Factory, which is a project being done by one Kenyan called Amina. And she looks at cultivating almost 50,000 hectares. That is just one of the examples. Uganda has very, very good weather. It rains every other day. Compared to Kenya, I think also Kenya has its comparative advantage. Kenya is more industrialized. Kenya, if you look at our infrastructure, it's a bigger economy. So these economies, when they come together, I see a win-win situation.
All right. And of course, still sticking to trade, let's just take our viewers back to this particular, kind of event where you're presenting your letters of credence. And key to note, we had speakers who were very passionate as well about trade and the relationship that is there between Kenya and Uganda. Let's take a look.
Our two countries have made tremendous progress in boosting our ease of doing business indices, in trade liberalization, and transforming our countries into highly competitive and low-cost investment destinations with an aim of balancing the trade between them. You would agree with me if you looked at the latest statistics. The trade between Uganda and Kenya now is balanced. What we need to do is to grow it.
So there's that as well. You actually were very passionate. But after that, we also saw Mr. Sam Kutesa, the Foreign Affairs Minister here in the country, and we'll also take a look at that. But it seemingly is not, so smooth when it comes to trade between the two countries, because also the Commissioner of Uganda to Kenya is also crying foul. Before you answer to that, let's take a look at what she had to say.
In the world, public diplomacy, important as it is no longer enough. The emphasis has shifted from public diplomacy to commercial diplomacy, because that is what really sustains nations. So I'd like to, first of all, appreciate your remarks, but also acknowledge your enthusiasm in making sure that business between Uganda and Kenya is your first priority, which I think is very important. If we can uplift the lives of our people through doing business, investment and trade, then we surely will have done our part.
So the Foreign Affairs Minister looks very optimistic with regards to this, but we've also been having issues. Of course, we monitor this particular relationship, and people are saying, Ugandans in Kenya are saying, it's very hard for them to do business in Kenya. It's very hard for them to get the right documentation. And I think it's also the same case right here. Some of them are also still crying foul, saying that it's a tedious process. The bottlenecks are still there. What's your take on this? What strides are being made to ensure that that is streamlined?
I have had engagements with the business fraternity in this country as when we start talking about trade. And I have encouraged them. I have encouraged the Ugandans to invest in Kenya. But of course, there's always this fear that Kenya is a big economy, Kenyans are fast and all that. It's a perception, really. If you look at people like the chairman of Simba Telecommunication, Patrick, he has invested in Kenya and Uganda and Tanzania, and he's doing very well. There are other Ugandans also who have invested in Kenya. There is no country which in the region has simplified its ease of doing business like Kenya. In fact, in the region now we are number 9 in the continent. We have started the Huduma centers, where Huduma centers are one-stop shop. Today, to register a company in Kenya can take you 24 hours.
As a foreigner?
As a foreigner. By the way, whether you are Ugandan, Tanzanian, wherever you come from, you can own a company 100% wholly. You don't have to have a local partner. So I want to encourage Ugandans and tell them to feel free to do business in Kenya.
Okay.
When there are issues, in my office, we have a commercial attaché whose work is dedicated to ensure that he makes it easier for foreigners, for Ugandans, and any foreigners living here to do business in Kenya.
All right, and I'd like us to get this bite of Madam Phoebe Awere. She is the Ugandan High Commissioner to Kenya. She was crying foul about this particular relationship.
Yes,
Let's take a look.
President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni of Uganda and President Kenyatta Uhuru of Kenya. I know whenever they meet, they are talking about free movement within the two countries. But I want to tell you, my brothers, there is still some little hiccup at the border that you find when you're in Uganda. You will enjoy. A Kenyan crosses and goes to Uganda to hawk, to sell Masai shoes, to sell earrings, to sell anything in Tororo up to Jinja. But when it comes to a Ugandan to go to Kenya, it's still hard. There is a need for us to help our Kenyans at the border, to support them, talk to them, and tell them that it's a reality that it's now going to be free movement.
So there's still hiccups on the ground.
Look, even like any other business, you will always find small bottleneck. We as diplomats, we as the civil servants, our work, we are not politicians. Our work is now to ensure that we smoothen where we find there are issues in terms of trade. Sometimes we even hear the bus companies from Kenya, they would come to us and say, oh, we were stopped at this place, we are doing this. This is not the position of the Ugandan government or the Kenyan government, where we have elements who are making it difficult for our people to do trade. Then we as the diplomats come in to resolve it. And we resolve it amicably, yeah? And make sure that people just enjoy. It's the work of the politicians now to go to the TV stations, right, and to go to public barazas and talk about it. But so, as our work is to, if there are problems like maybe the Uganda Custom Union, and we, by the way, we enjoy the East African Custom Union is the same, or KRA in Kenya. When there are bottlenecks, Ugandans are free to call on my office at the mission, express their grievances, and we would be able to resolve them. Secondly, there are mechanisms which have been put in place by the East African community, where they meet quarterly in Arusha, which is the headquarters, and their work is now to review challenges which have been there. so that they make movement of people and goods easy for the East Africans to enjoy.
All right, and we're happy that now we have that assurance. Ugandans have that assurance that they can walk into your office and report these issues. Okay, but you spoke about the East African community, and just the other day we saw the collapse of the EAC summit, and this was supposed to take place in Arusha, Tanzania. But do you think that this heralds a crack in this East African bloc? Are there undertones, undercurrents that you're not reading into? Are we at a position whereby we'll get back to the 1997 collapse of the East African community?
On the contrary note, I'm an optimist. I know the head of the East African community, head of states, His Excellency President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, had sent notices to his colleagues that they meet at Arusha. And Burundi sent an apology saying the notice was short. You know, states are juggling with two balls here. There are the issues of the domestic issues, where every state is. The head of state of Burundi has his issues. Kenya, we have our issues. Uganda, they have their issues. And what he says is that he was given a short notice.
Do you think it's just short notice? Is there something else we're not seeing?
Let me say this. From where I sit, when a head of state gives an excuse, we have just to take it as it is and be optimistic and ensure that in the next meeting, there are going to be meetings. Dialogue is the key to any impasse. We cannot afford to see this union going south.
Okay.
In fact, what we have to do is to strengthen it.
All right.
Maybe you don't know this, but the EU today came to do their study in the old East African community, where we had common harbour, railways, we had universities. If you wanted to be the best student in law, you used to go to Dar es Salaam University.
Right.
At the time. The East Africans would go there, those who wanted to do law. And you see the best lawyers today, or the most senior-most lawyers, went to Dar es Salaam. If you wanted to do economics, you used to come to Makerere. That's why we have people like our president, Mwai Kibaki. He was here. I think he was among he was the first to get first-class honors in economics. Then if you wanted to do engineering, you used to go to Nairobi. That, if we grew that spirit, I believe today we would be having a one union which would be not only economical but political. The world is looking at numbers. We are stronger together. When we divide ourselves, nobody is going to look at us.
So you're optimistic this impact will be resolved?
Absolutely, this impasse is going to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Migingo. Of course, there's this rocky marriage between Uganda and Kenya, and we cannot have this conversation without talking about Migingo. And Migingo is just barely quarter an acre, but we're still fighting over it. Are there any strides that are being made to ensure that this is resolved?
Actually, it's good. That's a good question, and I'm sure many Kenyans, many Ugandans always want to know what is happening about Migingo. I can give it to you and assure Kenyans and Ugandans, wherever they are, that at the head of state level, they have designated ministries of interior. Our Ministry of Interior and the Ministry of Interior of Uganda are the ones who are dealing with that issue. In fact, we were supposed, all of us, to be having a meeting in Kisumu just to see how to resolve that. To me, it is a very small issue for us to resolve. Yeah, we must live together, and I'm sure the head of our countries are seized with this matter, and very soon you will hear this matter being resolved amicably.
Okay, and at least now we have that assurance, but just get us to understand, what is it about Migingo Island? It's barely quarter an acre, but this thing has been ongoing for quite a long time, many years to come. So what is so special? What's the gold in here? Is it just about the fish, or now it's turning into a political issue?
I can tell you it has nothing to do with politics. It has absolutely nothing to do with politics. This is about trade, it's about fish, it's about how we are doing fishing and the strategic area of landing. And that's why I'm telling you, it is really an issue which is going to be resolved at that level.
Okay.
Yeah. So very soon we will be hearing our meeting. We got invitations where we'll be attending a meeting in Kisumu. Both, of course, that is led by the Interior Ministries. Yeah, it is not an issue of foreign affairs, but since we are the ones who represent the region, we would also be there. And the outcome would be communicated, and I'm sure it is going to be very positive.
All right, okay.
Yes.
Let's talk about the aviation space, and we know that Uganda will be operating its defunct airline. Now it's going to be revived. Come April, operations will be taking off. April next year, so we just are a few months shy of that.
Yes.
And we know that Kenya has been a major player in the East African space when it comes to aviation, thanks to Kenya Airways and many other, private players. But with regards to the new baby in the block coming on board, are you assuring Ugandans of that particular support when it comes to the market of East Africa?
Bravo. Congratulations to Ugandans. Because we have seen other babies coming up. Rwanda Air, for example, have all the rights to go into Nairobi. Rwanda Air is flying to Mombasa. Now Tanzania have brought up Tanzania Air. It's also flying to Nairobi. We support one another. We are one another's keeper.
Right.
So Uganda Airline, when it comes in, the Kenyan space is open for them.
All right.
Yes.
Brilliant. Now let's talk about the Kenya Week. I'm sure we are gearing up towards the Jamhuri for Kenya on the 12th of December. But the Kenya Week is a very, kind of critical phase before we get to that. So just break it down for us. What is Kenya Week? What will it entail? What are the, underlying messages that maybe Ugandans and Kenyans alike need to know ahead of this?
Kenya Week is a week preceding a culmination to 12th of December, when Kenya attained its independence from the United Kingdom in 1963. This is one of our most important day in our calendar week, because we look at the milestone where we have covered from 1963 when we gained independence. It is also a time also to showcase our culture, which is diverse. It is also a time when we like, because it falls around Christmas, the month of Christmas, the month of festivities, where our Lord Jesus was born. We like celebrating with those of our colleagues or the less fortunate in the society. So this week we have arranged as the Kenyan High Commission in Uganda on the 5th of this month, which is tomorrow, to go to Wakiso district. There's a home which we are going to see the children, the less fortunate. We are going to give them food. We are going to give them shoes. We have companies which have come along with us, companies like Bata, companies like Raiders, Symbion, Gulf, Grain Bulk. These are companies which have partnered with us, and we will be going to help those kids who are going to be the leaders of tomorrow. You know, a leader can come from nowhere, from everywhere, and we are looking at those kids, those orphans, so that we as the Kenyans also touch those kids and feel they are part of us. This has nothing to do with trade or anything. It's just giving back to the society.
Back to the society.
Then come on the 8th, we are going to have the Kenya Golf Day which will be at Kampala Golf Club, Kitante. We are inviting all golfers to come and join us.
Both Kenyan and Ugandan? Both
Kenyans and Ugandans, and other foreigners.
All right.
Yeah, this is a game where we are going to interact with the senior government officials, corporate officers or players, and also the like-minded.
All right.
So everyone is welcomed. Those who play golf, they can register at the club. Then come on the 11th is when we are going to celebrate. It will be the culmination, where now we are going to celebrate the Jamhuri Day itself.
Okay.
That is something which we do to give back to the society. We also want to deepen the relationship between Kenya and Uganda, because Uganda and Kenya, we are really brothers, and we want to see that the relationship grows from strength to strength.
Thank you so much. His Excellency Kiema Kilonzo, the High Commissioner of the Republic of Kenya to Uganda. That has been the conversation. Keep your views coming. We are on the hashtag Morning at 10 TV across all the social media platforms. Morning at 10 TV still continues. Up next is Reality on the Ground with Andrew Chamagero. Keep it here.
You're watching Morning at NTV.
The Airtel 4G smartphone is here, and now you can experience the real power of 4G speeds for just 200,000 shillings, and also get 5 GB free data every month for 3 months and free 4G SIM card. Now that's value for your money. The Airtel 4G